Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mrs. G's Story Time. We are reading Star of Light by Patricia St. John with permission of Moody Publishing Company, and we are on Chapter 12, Jenny. Many miles away, there was a different Christmas party taking place. The children here were also feeling very happy and carefree, like the little ones in the nurse's home. But it was quite a different kind of party. Instead of oranges and nuts and sweets, there were jellies and trifles and cotton biscuits and a big Christmas cake. Instead of wet rags, there was a brightly colored dresses and sweaters, and the girls had bright ribbons in their hair. It should have been a perfect party, and yet when the tea and the games were over, and the joyful children gathered by the Christmas tree to sing carols, the grown-up visitors all felt sad, and one little visitor, age 9, felt saddest of all. But this was a blind school, and the little singers with their bright faces could not see the tree or the candles or the toys they had been given. They had eaten their meal excitingly and danced merrily up and down the sound of music, and now they were singing with all their hearts. Jenny, sitting in the audience with her parents, felt very sad. If she'd always had to live in the dark, she was quite certain she would never be happy again. She shut her eyes for a moment and tried to imagine what it would be like to be blind. But it was really too dreadful even to think about, so she opened them again quickly and watched the children. They were singing a carol that Jenny herself had learned at school. Star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Jenny wondered why they had been taught such words. What was the good of singing with perfect light when they were doomed to spend all their days in darkness? Yet as she watched them, she had to admit to herself that not one little singer looked unhappy. Jenny knew the story of that carol, for they had made a beautiful wall picture of it and to decorate the classroom for their Christmas party. Her teacher had struck on the brightly colored figures, 3 lurching camels and 3 wise men with long white beards and their treasures of gold and frankincense and myrrh, a shining star beaming down on a humble little house where a poor woman sat playing with her baby boy. Jenny's mother touched her, and she stopped dreaming and started clapping so loudly that the blind children would hear how pleased she was. And then it was over, and the little children crowded around to say goodbye, touching and filling and chattering, and the smallest ones were carried away happy and sleepy to bed. But the bigger ones stayed around the doorway to wave and shout to the sound of cars driving away. And that was the last Jenny saw of them. She was very quiet on the way home, and her mother, thinking she was tired, hurried her up to her room, lit her gas fire, and hustled her into bed. Jenny had been ill, and this had been her first real outing in 3 months. Her mother had wondered whether she ought to go, but Jenny had insisted. As usual, had her way. Her father had recently joined the council of the blind school, and they had all been invited to the Christmas party. Jenny nestled down under her pink comforter and looked at all her Christmas presents, the books, the games, the cozy little dressing gown, the little gold wristwatch, and the traveling case. It had been a good Christmas, and the best present of all, a pony of her own, was down in the stable. For the first time in her rather self-centered life, Jenny suddenly realized that she was really a very fortunate child. She thought of the blind children with the toys that they could not see, and the children in Morocco who had no toys at all, often no food. Her Aunt Rosemary looked after some of them and had written her early Christmas letter all about them, and Jenny had been thrilled. It had been a new, exciting story, giving her a peep into a world she knew nothing about, a world where children like herself went about in rags and earned their own living and slept by themselves outdoors, a world where little babies got ill because they didn't have enough to eat. Jenny adored babies, but the only ones she ever met had nannies who took care of them, and she had not been allowed to hold them in her arms as she had longed to do. Those other babies were probably too poor to have nannies, and perhaps she would be allowed to pick them up. The wonderful thing was that a very short time, Jenny would actually see the children that Aunt Rosemary had written about. Only 6 weeks after Christmas, she and her parents were going by car on a long journey to visit her and her beggar children in the mountains of North Africa. The doctor had said that Jenny needed sunshine, and she had had plenty of medicine, creams, tonics, and drives out in the car, but she could not get warm in the sunshine of England. in January, so they were off southward to the land of blue skies, yellow beaches, and calm seas, where she would grow strong and brown and healthy. She sleepily wondered how her father would know the way, and supposed that they would just follow the sun, as the wise men had followed the star. When her mother returned with a drink and biscuits on the tray, she found her little daughter fast asleep. She stood looking down at the flushed face and tumbled hair for a moment, and then put out the light, opened the big window, and slipped away, leaving Jenny to the dream of stars, sunshine, and Christmas trees. And tomorrow we'll read chapter 13, The Holiday Begins. I love you, I'm praying for you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.